To you from the stable of the Living Television, where we discuss current affairs. Today we have our analyst in the house. Today one of us will be joining us later. Today what we have today, Nigeria's economic growth too slow to address challenges of extreme poverty in the country. President Tinubu changes his mind over the choice of Senate President. Oguzo people lament over the deplorable state of their roots. House of Representatives described the launching of the Nigeria Career and Aid Nigeria as fraud. Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki increases minimum wage from 30,000 to 40,000 naira. Senate throws out PMB's controversial water bill. These and many more will be coming your way today as we hand over to our analysts. I'm sure you are sitting tight to listen to what we have for you today. Today in the house, I have Barrister Chukwuemeka Wogo. Barrister Chukwuemeka Wogo is a practicing lawyer, and not just a lawyer, he's also a security consultant and a public affairs analyst. Barrister, welcome to the program.
Thank you, moderator, and good day, viewers.
Like I said earlier, one of us will be joining us later in today's program, but we have to continue. The World Bank yesterday warned the Nigerian's economic growth, warned that the Nigerian economic growth is too slow to address the challenges of extreme poverty in the country. The bank has retained its economic growth, that is known as GDP, forecast of 2.8% for Nigeria in 2023, citing challenges of high inflation, foreign exchange shortages, of banknotes caused by the current Naira redesign. I know before now we had talked about this design as introduced by the central bank governor, that is Emefiele. And today the World Bank is coming up to say that there is nothing much in place, that the level of poverty, there is nothing in place to correct the level of poverty in the country, according to the World Bank. And you've been this, you know, would I say lament, or you shouted, talked about much of the hunger, the level of poverty in the country yesterday in the issues of the moment. And this one is coming up now. So what's your take on that, Council?
Well, I think it's as if the World Bank listened in on our program yesterday, and they maybe reconsidered the submissions I made and found the same to be true. In fact, there is no gainsaying the fact that a lot of Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. This is the product of a study that recently came out. I think the National Bureau of Statistics released the figure. Nigeria is currently the poverty capital of the world. We used to be somewhere up on the list, heading dangerously for the first position. That was in the past. But during the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria effectively occupied that infamous and inglorious position as the poverty capital of the world. Poverty actually starts from hunger. When people are hungry, every other thing begins to go wrong and spiral out of control. So for the World Bank to come to that realization, I am not happy with the World Bank. It's as if they were scared of President Muhammadu Buhari and couldn't really, because I'm not sure that they got that figure. They arrived at this conclusion just yesterday.
Yes, yes.
It's been there with them. Why did they wait? I agree, it may not have made much difference if they had pronounced it. but let the evil that a man has done live with him. Because in fairness to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he is now taking off with this infamous and inglorious report or finding. That is very unfair to him. I agree he's still a member of the same APC that has kept us where we are today, but it would have been better that this report card was released during the tenure of the man who sat in the saddle for 8 years and plunged us into this mess.
All right, wonderful viewers. Remember I said one of us will be joining us later, and he is around now. Let us invite to the studio Comrade Nnamdi Elekwachi. Alright, our great viewers, thank you. You're still there. I'm glad you're still there watching your station, The Living Television. Remember, today is Nigeria Today, and we are discussing the analysis of the World Bank that have announced that the poverty rate in this country is on the high side. And also here, the barrister, you just talked about the World Bank and also their report now. But they also, one of the things they mentioned that has caused this poverty rate is the currency redesign of the central bank. Though you are just joining us, Comrade Nnamdi Elekwachi, and I'm sure it doesn't need much of this introduction. You know, Comrade Nnamdi Elekwachi is a historian and also a televangelist, the man who is in terms with figures and numbers. Once again, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a privilege. May I render my apology, for being a bit nice to you.
Okay. As apologies for the council.
No, to the viewers.
All right, we are talking about the poverty rate as discovered by the World Bank, and then the mention of this redesign of MFLA, the governor of the central bank, that said it contributed to the poverty rate we are going through now.
Yes, I think it doesn't need to be gainsaid. It is already there. I did say the other day that a study revealed that 2.3 million Nigerians became hungry. We are food insecure. It's a very serious one now. Food insecure. You know, Council was talking about hunger when I was coming. And if you look at hunger index, you see that somebody will be hungry because they don't have what they want to eat. But food security is a serious one because it is the height of crisis. So if there is food crisis, it means you are hungry because there is crisis of food. Food is not even available. You understand? You don't even have a limited choice. You understand what I'm saying now? So what that means is that if we are to critically review the policy that is known as cashless policy or naira design or currency swap, whatsoever that is so called, no matter the tax, you will see that millions of Nigerians we actually plunged into poverty because we are talking about informal sector where people live from hand to mouth. We are talking about what happened to the businesses or services of people in the informal sector like drug pushers, barbers, artisans, and what have you. So it is to me, it is what it is that Buhari created poverty in the name of, yes, because we were saying before now that we had 133 million Nigerians facing multidimensional poverty. Mind you, before then, Brookings Institution said 88 million Nigerians were poor. If you subtract 88 from 133, that's 45 million. In addition to this 45 million, we are now having another millions again who actually became poor because many people lost their means of livelihood in the course of that very
currency redesign.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, away from that, ahead of the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, there are strong indications that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu may have changed his mind over the choice of Senator Akpabio and Tajuddin Abbas as Senate President and Speaker of the House of Representatives, respectively. The President may also pick the next person from the Northwest. Let me start with you, Council. You know, before now, it was Akpabio was seen as the choice of Mr. President. And I'm sure one of the days we asked here, is it the right of the President to choose, or is it the National Assembly that will elect their President? But as we speak today, because of so many agitations from various corners, Mr. President is about changing his mind for Akpabio.
Well, we've also discussed this issue before. I get offended when we use certain expressions in Nigeria. Why would anybody, any sane human being, any sane adult, by that I mean 18 years and above, those who are eligible to vote, be talking about the president choosing the Senate President, selecting the Senate President? That is it can only happen in Nigeria. We are having stayed for so long under military rule. We are still laboring under the vestiges of military mentality and dictatorship. If you look at the chicken, you bring it to your home from another place. We used to do it when we were kids. Those of us who grew up locally, not the Ajibotas of today, they wouldn't understand what I'm saying. You tie the rope to the leg of the chicken, one leg, then tie it to a log of wood, and that prevents it from wandering. It would be moving, within the compound, just a narrow area, small area, and dragging it. After a while, when it has gotten used to the other chicken, familiarized itself with the environment, you can now let it go. But you notice that when you remove that thing, it keeps on dragging its foot for some days. That is the problem with Nigeria. We still think that we are running a unitary system of government. Every instruction comes from the president and all whatnot. Luckily, we also have a precedent where there was, will I say, rebellion. The proper thing was done. The executive decided to interfere as the executive is interfering today. And then the legislature had to remind the executive that the legislature is an arm of government, autonomous and distinct and separate from the executive. During the time of, it happened in the House of Representatives, and they selected Tambuwal, His Excellency Tambuwal, and then Emeka Ihedioha, His Excellency, also as Speaker and Deputy Speaker, respectively, against the clear choice of, that was Honorable, I think, Mulikat, yes, from Southwest. And it conveyed a message. I think a similar thing also happened in the Senate when Dr. Saraki, Bukola Saraki emerged. He may not have enjoyed the clear support of the president, but his those whose duty it is to do the election, because they are going to elect, and most likely it might be by secret ballot. You see, when you go by secret ballot, anything can come out of it, as they demonstrated. So let President Bola Ahmed Tinubu not beat his chest that he is going to select or appoint for us a Senate president in the person of whomsoever he wishes. Once he makes the proclamation and inaugurates the National Assembly, he takes his when they go there, they will now elect from amongst themselves the person they wish to be their president.
All right. Comrade, from barrister's analysis, we want to believe, and many Nigerians would also want to believe that President Muhammadu Buhari, as a retired general, extended that level of dictatorship during his administration. But what about Bola Ahmed Tinubu? I'm not sure he was even in the Nigerian war and so on. And then it's like that dictatorship is extending.
Yes, there are certain things I would even like to say. You see, in Nigeria, powers are conferred on the president more than he may even use. I'm not sure that any president in the history of this country, since we became a democracy from 1999, has ever used all the powers conferred on that. And that is why we have to make every conscious effort to revisit the powers of appointment, because the president will be in excess of that exercise when he feels that he can appoint the head of the National Assembly. That is in effect to create a rubber stamp assembly, which is not even going to be pro-people, but pro-executive. The kind we are dealing with currently, that is term limited, that is lame dog now, you understand? The last assembly, the ninth assembly, you begin to ask yourself, what did they achieve? Because they were busy telling those who cared to listen that their major achievement was a robust relationship with the
president. Yeah.
Whereas their duty, like I have said before, is into three. One, representation. They have to present people like us. Even the president is presented, he has a member presenting him in his constituency. They have to make law. They also have to do what you call oversight. But all things being equal, I think it is clear, and council has done justice to that the president should not have anything to do with the affairs of the National Assembly. And Bola Ahmed Tinubu did say something like that when he was in France. Remember very well, before he came back, he did say that he will never interfere with the business of National Assembly. That whoever emerges, he can work with the person.
Yeah.
Only for him to come back now, and we now saw a release, you understand, signed by the APC, claiming that after consultation with him, I mean, the National Working Committee consulted the president-elect there, who is now the president. They have now decided to zone. Now, they were talking about zoning, which was not even in their own constitution, that the APC is now zoning the Senate presidency to South. And at the end of the day, you see that arrangement may not even stand. You see, it may even make him to lose his popularity in the National Assembly, because at the end of the day, we saw that not Central was actually excluded in the whole thing, in the whole arrangement. And they have come out to say today that they are not even accepting the post of secretary to the government, that they want to be that they want to be in the name of affairs where others are. So I think Tinubu should be careful, like council said, what played out, the politics that played out and banned out, that we had Tambua, that we had Saraki, that we had Ekwema and the rest of them. He should be careful, else he may even lose it.
All right, our council, I'm also sure you are aware that the southeast people, especially the Ohanese Igbo, came out openly last week to say that the deputy speakership zoned to the southeast is a mockery.
Yeah.
To this part of the nation. And as you also talk about that, then why would a sitting president, constitutionally elected president, he would want to choose a Senate president for himself and by himself?
So that, as he promised us to continue from where President Muhammadu Buhari stopped, he said so. President Tinubu said so when he was campaigning, that he will continue from where Buhari stopped. You know that Buhari borrowed up to the Friday before the inauguration on Monday. He kept borrowing. The last one was the 800 million US dollars,
yes.
Up to Friday. So if he didn't have a stooge in the person of the Senate president, he wouldn't have had the Senate agreeing with him. If he had had the likes of, let's say, David Mark, or even Dr. Bukola Saraki,
or even Senator Kadibo.
Yes, Senator Kadibo. No past Senate president would have performed this abysmally, embarrassingly, and horribly poorly done job as the present or outgoing Senate president had done. And so, since Tinubu says he wants to continue from where Buhari stopped, he has seen that the National Assembly was a rubber stamp, wasn't able to stand up to the president, failed in all their jobs. Comrade, of course, reminded us that their assignment is divided into 3 parts. Number 1 stems from their name, legislature, which is lawmaking. 2 is now representation, another very important. And then the last one, oversight. In terms of representing the people, they scored 0 because they were representing themselves. If they had the interest of the nation at heart, they wouldn't be there representing and approving loans upon loans upon loans, and then say they are representing us. They didn't represent us. In terms of oversight function, nobody bothered to ask what was the budget performance for the previous budget year, the previous fiscal year, before you go ahead to approve another one. And then you're asking for more loans. The ones we approved, how were they appropriated? How were they used? Nobody bothered. The only thing they knew, Mr. Oga has brought it, there's a request from Mr. President.
Yeah.
A few of them, a few of the senators, like my own dear uncle, Senator Enya Baribe, would always, we know his pedigree, he would get up and shout and object and oppose. But at the end of the day, he's like one man fighting alone.
The majority will have their way.
Yes.
He's like one man fighting alone. But history will, of course, always be fair and just to him, because we knew that he was about the lone voice. Out of the 109, he was about the lone voice. So just the other 108, I don't know what they were doing. So it's really most unfortunate. And that is why the president wants a rubber stamp, another rubber stamp. He has seen the way Buhari used the outgoing rubber stamp. So he wants another rubber stamp, his own rubber stamp.
All right, comrade. Now, in so many areas, people have talked about withdrawing. Like they are supposed to have their constituency offices in the localities.
Yeah.
And then, is it possible to withdraw either a sitting Senate or a House of Representatives? Yes, to recall.
Yes, it is possible, but then it will begin with advocacy and then consciousness. Who will do the advocacy and the consciousness? You see, the problem we have is that we see politics as a reward. When we elect someone and they fail to represent us, I want to thank council by talking about representation. You know, each time we talk about these 3 functions of the legislature, we don't even elaborate on them. They won't get to represent their pockets, their interests, and their families, and not us. Now, if at all we are talking about representation, if people understand very well that a legislator, even after 1 year, even after 2 years, could be recalled, they can be conscious. They can be aware to say, okay, we are beginning other level bodies, even the National Assembly, and then we now conduct that kind of referendum exercise. But unfortunately, we see politics as a reward. We say, okay, since it is from this part of the state, let them have their turn. Next turn will be our own. Whether or not the person performs well in office or not laudably enough in office. But I think all things being equal, the National Assembly should be treated as what it is. That is the bastion of our democracy. Democracy simply means, in fact, what our kind of democracy is called indirect democracy, and another name for it is representative government, representative democracy, meaning that some persons are representing us, You understand? And I'm not talking about president, I'm talking about those who are elected to defend our interests, to represent us, to make sure that the budget, when being articulated as appropriation, reflects those infrastructural gaps we are battling here. So not just to go there, participate in what they call filibuster, to talk, and at the end of the day, we make no money.
Anyway, if we start with representation, we may not live here today because I am not sure anybody is represented. They rather represent themselves and their pockets. All right, Council, the people of Obuzo community in Okwa West local government area of Abia State have lamented bitterly over the deplorable state of their roads. They now go to the neighboring Obibo town in River State for business transactions, as the routes that will lead to the Abia market or to Aba that is supposed to be closer to them is very, very deplorable. The traditional ruler of the community, Ozonyomuwa Wabara, said that both Abia State and the Niger Delta Development Commission have abandoned the people. I want to come to you on this because I know at the point in time you were very close to the state government, and then having been a local government chairman as well. What is your take about this? And Okwa West is in Abia State here.
Okay, I also need to place it on record that throughout the tenure of Governor Gezibazu, I was nowhere near the state government.
Okay.
And I'm sure you are aware, so you also have a duty to inform us properly. At a time, yes, during the time of His Excellency, Senator T.A. Odge, I served at different points in time, either as commissioner or local government chairman. I can talk about that period. But for the past 8 years, I'm not in a position to address it, having not served in any capacity in the state government. However, as a Nigerian, I know that the road you're talking about, the Enugu-Port Harcourt Express Road, is a federal road. And Buhari clearly told us that we are 5%. We were called such, we were treated as such for 8 years. No state government can fix that Enugu-Port Harcourt Express. Let's also be fair to their own responsibility. And I know that usually what happens when you have a failure of federal infrastructure, especially in terms of road, is that the traffic which that federal road ought to carry now collapses onto the state roads. You see, in construction of these roads, the standard used for a trunk A road to construct a trunk A road is different from that of a trunk B road, is different from that of a trunk C road. Many people may not know. What they know is road. So there are vehicles you expect that would take or ply on the trunk A roads. When they abandon the trunk A roads because the trunk A road is no longer in existence and start using trunk B road, it's an error. What happens? The trunk B road will go down. Then they leave it and jump to trunk C. What happens? Complete collapse. That is actually what is happening. He referred to us as a dot nation. We are just a dot. And yet, the dot nation we import for the entire nation. All the containers, that road, the express road is like that because the containers that the southeast, our businessmen are importing, that is what they are supposed to use. Now they got the ports there down. We are using Lagos. The road there not also pliable, just to bring us down as a nation because we are a dot nation. Let us now hope that it's true he has said he will continue from where Buhari stopped. And that was what threw fear into many of us before the election. But let us also hope that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would have a change of heart in many areas and not continue like Buhari, Because if he continues like Buhari, that means we are finished. He's going to treat us like a dot nation. We are going to remain 5%.
All right, shortly before we go on break, and talking about Enugu Port Harcourt Expressway, we understand that they've been job and has commenced long ago, and they are still on the process.
Yeah.
I think that is kudos to Mr. President.
Yes.
Now, comrade, I wonder, what is the major function of NDDC? Because according to the traditional ruler, he said they've been abandoned by the state and also NDDC.
I think what that you should have said is that they are crying in terms of internal infrastructure. The NDDC is by the law establishing its establishing law expected to deliver. NDDC, well, unfortunately enough, it had 3,000 abandoned projects. 3,000 abandoned projects at the time when Ababio was the Minister of Energy. I don't know if you remember, they had 3,000 abandoned projects for which the President cried out and said, we are going to review, to audit the account of NDC. After everything, the committee they set up, we've not even heard their report. We don't even know where we are here today. At the point, the board was suspended, and we don't know where we are today.
Even when they invited him, and yes, he was about spilling the beans.
When they invited him,
and he threatened to say, off the mic, you remember?
Now they invited the minister. The minister Ababio said that all the sectors were beneficiaries to
yes, he said that.
He said it. So
and he was about exposing more, and they said off the mic.
Now it will bring us back to the east. Sorry, to the Port Harcourt road. Yeah. At a point, President Buhari was actually putting out, trying to put on that facade of being somebody who was actually dedicated. We saw that some phases of the road were completed. From Enugu, passed through Loka, passed through Omaha. That side had actually been fixed to a considerable extent. Then coming down to the Isi Alangwa, north and south axis, you need to see some potholes here and there. Then immediately you get to that flyover, or even before flyover, it is a total collapse. So it is what it is. Part of the 16 trillion naira worth of abandoned project President Muhammadu Buhari left. He donated to Buhari. So I think
for which money had been borrowed.
What it simply means is that we had profligate. In fact, we had some persons mismanage the wealth of this nation for 8 years, and that person is President Muhammadu Buhari and his ministers. Go and check ministers like Minister of Aviation, Minister of Women Affairs, then Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Control. Check all these ministries. See, they became conduit for siphoning of
the economy. All right, wonderful viewers, we're going to go on a very short break. When we come back, Nigeria Today continues. Don't go away. Stay glued to your television. We'll be back. Our great and wonderful viewers, I'm glad you're still there watching your Star Television, the Living TV. We are still on it, Nigeria Today. Moving on, the Senate on Tuesday rejected the controversial National Resources Bill 2023 after it was listed for concurrence on the other paper for consideration and the passage. Remember, former President Muhammadu Buhari had in 2017 presented the controversial bill to both chambers of the National Assembly, which seek to transfer the control of water resources to, from state to federal. I am also sure we talked about it here, and I remember that Council frowned bitterly at that. And today, the Federal House, the National Assembly, have decided to throw away the bill. The question, Council, let me come to you. Why now?
Simply put, again, because like the World Bank, which was afraid of releasing its report when Buhari was there, Buhari has left, so people can now begin to speak the truth. Buhari has gone out, so the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, can now do what they think is right. That was why they had kept that bill in abeyance. They knew Nigerians didn't want it. There was no way they could have passed it against the outcry, against the public outcry of Nigerians. At the same time, they didn't want to be seen as offending their boss, the outgone president, because of the person he had put in place as the Senate president, who was still, or who is still presiding over the affairs of the Senate. So why now is that, yes, the thing has outlived its youthfulness, and they can now do belatedly what they think is right without fear of Buhari.
All right, comrade, can you just refresh our memory concerning this water resources bill?
Yes, I think the water resources bill created a lot of disharmony, a lot of uproar in this, because we were talking about that time. It was trying to coincide with the bill for the so-called anti-grazing bill, and it created a problem at the sub-national levels, where governors like Akeredolu, even our own government, they all came out publicly to say we are against this anti-grazing bill, grazing bill, you understand? Grazing right bill.
Ruga.
Yes, Ruga. There was an understanding that every state should build a kind of settlement for pastoralists, for these pastoral headers. But the question is, we know that in land-man ratio is not in favor of man in many states. And we said, let those states that claim to have land mass, and you know that in sharing revenue in this country, land mass receives 10%. Let them use their land mass for the purpose they are receiving 10%. It became a problem. So I think council said it all. What they have just done now is to say, now that the man whose policy agenda this is no longer there, let us kick it out. But then, unfortunately, it shouldn't have been. I think we should have the National Assembly that should stand up eyeball to eyeball, shoulder to shoulder, and tell the president that what you are doing is not acceptable. Even the president could be mistaken sometimes. So that bill being treated this way is not timeless. It's just digressing.
All right, Council, talking about this water resources bill, I remember you mentioned something then when we talked about it. Let's assume that we have water side here, and maybe some
the
other
federal government will come to
and then even fishing, and so on. Those who live, those who live by it in their various communities will now do that at the mercy of the federal government. So, if this bill was passed, what would have been the outcome of our various states and waters?
Despite the vagaries we've suffered in this nation, and the humiliation, degradation that we have been subjected to, God still fights for us. Even the Lord God Almighty saw that bill as obnoxious and used everything to ensure that at least it was kept in the cooler. I'm surprised that they are just throwing it out, because I thought they had thrown it out. Somehow, like I said earlier, they knew they couldn't pass it. They just couldn't. But they didn't want to offend their boss, so they kept it in the cooler. Now, the effect would have been, like I said then, that this Aba River, The natives, we call it Iyaza. That's the name. Our visitors call it waterside, about waterside, but the traditional name is Iyaza. To go there and fetch water would have been a problem. You would need probably a coupon, a license to go and even fish in it. Like I said, we are here complaining about the exclusive legislative list.
Exactly.
That is unwieldy.
That's unwieldy. Over 65
weighted
items.
heavily,
Over 65 items.
exclusively in favor of the federal government. That, Comrade observed, the president doesn't even use his power. That's why he can't even. But some people around him would capitalize on that designation. Exactly. That's why you have the presidency. People will be there under the name of presidency. You know, it is the presidency has said who is the presidency, and they will not allow you to have access to what they will now use. Because when you are talking, if you look at the bill, the water resource bill, it didn't just talk about the water content only. It talked about certain distance on the banks from the middle of the waterway. That is actually the target, not just the water. Yes, it was the land area bordering the waterway, whereby what they couldn't get through the front door, through Ruga, they will now have pastoralists occupying exclusively the riverbanks all over Nigeria.
You see, I was coming to that. If not for the agitation, the media, the Nigerian public mounted saying, let it be subject to the public hearing, where everybody will participate. We want the public hearing. That bill would have scared to that value.
Yes.
But can it be passed? But there's something to it, you see. There is a petroleum or let me say natural resource law in Nigeria that says, in as much as the Land Use Act of the 1970s entrusted the land into the government, you understand? But when there shall be any resource existing, now see the law, it says above or beneath. For the purpose of that resource existing there, the federal government shall do what? Shall now come. What they are looking to do is to have as even to control sea lives or let me say resources in community or communal waters, that people in the different area, that people in Nigerian communities have been existing and living from it since their creation. And unfortunately, this is the government that has not been able to leverage international laws and shore up and defend its coastal areas from oil theft.
All right.
It's unfortunate.
The one they are allowed to control, they have not controlled it. They want the internal water.
Yeah.
The House of Representatives on Tuesday declared the purported launching of the Nigerian carrier Nigeria at the twilight of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration a fraud. The parliament asked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to suspend those involved with the aim of prosecuting them. We are aware of it, Council. I'm coming to you, and then somebody mentioned the Minister of Aviation here.
Yes, I did.
And then they purported launching and so on. And almost all the agencies who were supposed to be directly involved said they knew nothing about that launching, and that is why the House of Representatives now had to come up with this and said it is all a fraud.
Well, let me. I don't know. I would have loved to say, let me thank the House of Representatives, but I don't see much to thank them about. The fraud has already been perpetrated. The executive fraud, because it came from the highest porters in the land under President Muhammadu Buhari, the buck stopped at his table. We have panel beaters and spray painters here in Aba, in Lagos, Kaduna, everywhere. If you get 10 of them to repaint that aircraft, I'm not sure you will spend up to 1 million naira to repaint the aircraft. But this is something that we were told. The aircraft was repainted with 129 billion naira. We have stopped counting in million in this country. If you're a millionaire in Nigeria, you're almost as good as useless. If you have not joined the elite club of billionaires, you are still a small child. So, how can it be that shamelessly, that administration which claimed to have come to power to fight corruption, messed up a sister station to ours here, described it as a prank that the immediate past president, Buhari, pranked Nigerians. How can you tell us that? He told us that 35 of the aircraft will be coming in 5 years. Periodically, they are going to get them. Meanwhile, they went to Ethiopia Airlines and hired for purposes of window dressing, hired an aircraft. They came here, they were warned not to touch anything inside it, the branding. That was why on the day of the purported launching, no media practitioner was allowed to enter inside so that people wouldn't video or picture what was inside. It was only the ceremonial, the outside. And to show you that there is no perfect crime, the registration number of that aircraft was still the registration number of the Ethiopian Airlines. They forgot to do something about that. Because you've registered it, they only did window dressing and Nigeria Air repainted it. Something they would have given, if they had even given 1 million naira to our brothers, it would have favored them to repaint it. But because those ones who opened their belly and said, oh, we're only giving 1 million naira each, they now took the aircraft to wherever, repainted it, and brought it back. A report I was reading this morning has it that that particular aircraft has returned to the service of the Ethiopian Airlines. It has gone back. And as of today, despite the launching, there is nothing like Nigerian Air, not a single aircraft. If they had decided to swallow their pride and not hated the dot nation and everything that pertains to us, the dot nation, the Southeast, and approached our brother of Air Peace, come out openly, bros, abeg, borrow us 1 aircraft, and gone into a proper agreement with him, something like equipment leasing or franchising, it would have done everybody a whole lot of good. Whatever they had paid Ethiopian Airlines, I'm sure even our brother would have, Barrister Allen Onyema, would have gladly even given them 1 aircraft. He would have said, okay, just paint it and continue. He will even volunteer. If you know him, he's a personal friend. He would volunteer to even assist them manage it, and we wouldn't have been subjected to this ridicule and national disgrace, national shame that we've been subjected to.
All right.
It's a terrible shame.
Yes. They are talking about this. The House of Representatives also have requested that Mr. President, current president, do something about this, yes, including prosecuting that. So
I think I said that Tinubu had actually gotten off on a bad start. He shouldn't. Yes, he has actually gotten off on a bad start. He just got off on a bad start. He shouldn't even allow
doing everything wrong.
For the purpose of politics, he shouldn't be defending Muhammad Buhari, because this man messed up things and handed over to him a mess. Tinubu is just like a night soil man who has come to carry a trailer load of shit, truck load of shit. And I'm saying it is my personal opinion, but you should be careful where we are today, because this country has been messed up by those who we are saying they were fighting, they were representatives of anti-corruption. But that's why you see every airline should have an office. Where is the office of the Nigerian Air? When Nigerian Airways existed in the 80s and 90s, we know the offices.
Even in Abaya, at Azikiwe Road, they had an office at Azikiwe Road.
Where is the office of Nigerian Air? If you want to tell us that if you want to book, not a staff, where is the office of Nigerian Air? Who are their officers? And we should be careful. The Ministry of Aviation has nothing to do with Nigeria Air or Air Nigeria, whatever called. He is only supervising. He can only supervise that very line. But that is one. Then another thing is that a lot of things happen for which we are still asking questions. $600,000 was used to design the logo in the United Kingdom. $600,000 was allegedly used to design the logo. Now, when the aircraft came, we all saw that the registration number towards the tail of the aircraft reflected Ethiopia. Now, the question is, ever since it landed, has it ever flown?
Or carried 1%?
Carried 1%, or wrecked a single revenue, or was it just for propaganda or for just sightseeing that they brought it out? Was it just for fanfare? You see, we joke a lot in this country. We joke seriously a lot, and that is why I say, for us to get it right, accountability, transparency, openness, inclusion must be there. You cannot begin to talk about Air Nigeria or Nigeria Air without first having people who are experts in the field, and this should also include engineers, people who will service hardware and components, hardware and software components of the aircraft. And this should also have the related offices at various airports and various places in the country. But unfortunately,
all right.
So to me, I think everything about it must be interpreted to the letter.
All right, the council, assuming the House of Representatives, they have made their observations, but if Tinubu had promised he's going to continue from where Buhari stopped, if he fails to do anything about it, will the Nigerian community keep quiet?
Well, I don't know the extent to which the Nigerian community participated in bringing him to where he is for purposes of holding him accountable. Having said that, he is also not bound to continue from where Tinubu, from where Buhari stopped. He may be bound to continue from wherever he thinks any sensible achievement may have been made, or the path towards it, which of course is very minimal. But I expect him to chart a course. He can endure, despite what played out during
the election,
before the election, during the election, and immediately after. Tinubu can turn everything around by his style of governance. He can suddenly endear himself to Nigerians to such an extent that we will begin to say, well, we were not part of this, we were not party to it. However, we thank God that whosoever made that mistake, the mistake was divine. Let's now leave it that way. He can, by his style of governance, do so. If he insists on continuing from where Buhari stopped.
They look at that the EFCC still chasing Stella Odwan, the Minister of Education under Jonathan. I said, what about the outgoing minister, Hadi Serika?
All right. Yeah, let that be a discussion for another day because of our time. Finally, today in Nigeria today, the Edo State government on Tuesday empathized with the citizens over the removal of the fuel subsidy, which has led to an increase in the price of goods and services. The state governor, Godwin Obaseki, who shares the pain of his people and wants to assure everyone that he's standing with them. The governor said civil servants and public servants would work 3 days in a week against the normal 5 days. And due to the rise in transportation, he equally approved a minimum wage from 30,000 to 40,000 naira. That is to say that that state, Edo State, had implemented the 30,000 minimum wage, which many states have not, especially even where we are today. And it has also approved 40,000 outside the 3 days. That is real empathy.
Yes, but then don't also forget what the TUC tendered before the federal government. Yes. They said 200,000 minimum wage. I'm not saying that this is not good.
No, that one has not come to play until after 19.
After negotiations are completed. But I'm saying something. You see, even the 40,000 naira itself cannot still buy a bag of rice.
What about the states that have not implemented the 30,000?
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
All of that. Yes. Why would we just let us also know that Council took us back to austerity measure in the 80s. That's your seatbelt. Yeah. Yes, that is where we are now. We can't even wish it away. Yes, it is good that the government is coming up with this whole invention. And I love the fact that he said work for 3 days instead of 5 days. That is to be able to save transportation cost. That's fine. Now, to the states that have not even implemented this, including ADI, you begin to ask yourself, what is the template? Yes, the possibility of doing this. We are talking about a state. Now, see, the federal government disbursed over 300 billion naira for bailout funds. It's not even to include Paris, Reform, Club.
Exactly, yes.
Certain states will not pay salaries. Areas of 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, 30 months, 24 months. And that's mass enrichment. And people who represented this are governors who, upon retirement or upon leaving office, will now begin to receive life pension. It is a law happening in
addition to going to the
22 states. Other states is included. 22 states in the federation.
Yes. Except
Anambra, where P2B said no, I'm not open to that. That's why you don't have it in all the southeast states. Ebonyi is there, Aja is there, Enugu is there. Even River State, even Lagos State, all the governors, they are entitled to new cars every 2 years. Then life pension, but they didn't pay pension when they were governors. So it is still the same thing. And when they were told to pay subsidy, to standardize the minimum wage based on the principle of mutatis mutandis, they said no, it is not applicable. You understand? But they collected monies, and they sat on the money and they did nothing, including sitting on the revenues accruing to the local government councils.
That's it.
So it's a very unfortunate one.
Yes, council. Yeah, though you left government about 11 years ago.
Yes.
Now, this particular governor felt the plight of his people and then has come up with these measures. And that, I think that is the only state in the federation that has done something concerning this subsidy removal.
Yes. That's palliative.
Palliative, yes.
What he has done, when you try to quantify it, like Comrade said, it may not amount to much.
Yeah.
It's like dropping salt inside the ocean. It may not amount to much. However, speaking for myself, that is not the issue. It is not how much, it is how well. The intendment and that is what governance ought to be all about.
Yes.
That you are responsive to the yearnings, the aspirations of your people, as well as whatever touches them, touches you as a person. They wouldn't be crying and you would be smiling. You are saying that there is no money in the state, and yet every time you are organizing one very bogus launch or event or program, you know, just something mighty, publicity alone will gulp millions, and yet you are saying there is no money. So this is one human being. The Igbos will say that he is a mad. That's the way we describe him. When the Igbos say this person is human, or mad, he's human, he's a human being, it means that yes, he has conscience. He's simply trying to send a signal. That's what he's doing.
Exactly.
He's sending a signal to all the other governors, and then in particular to the federal government. Yes, in the course of taking decisions as government, it's not always palatable to the people.
Exactly.
Sometimes it might come with its bitter consequences. However, you must now do certain things to show that you identify with the plight of the people. So that out of the 5 days, 5 working days in a week, you say use 2 or 3 and come to work. The remainder, until this entire thing is sorted out, stay at home. Cut down on the cost of transportation.
Yes.
In turn, I will expect the workers to do something.
Yeah. Productivity. Yes.
To
And
equally
the
reciprocate,
outputs.
come to work on time.
On time.
Give your outputs.
You do not come by, as we witness in many places in Abia.
Yes.
You come by 10, 11,
Anytime.
and sign off by 1, 2. And you'll be the first to shout that you are being owed.
Old salaries.
So let the workers reciprocate. Encourage this governor who has done this. First, they have to say, Oga Governor,
Thank you.
thank you. It is not enough, but thank you. In return, until everything is sorted out, we on our part also, I mean their leadership,
Yes.
we now pledge 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on that. We will get to work, we'll be there till 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock on the 2 days.
Yeah.
Then we are now in the farming season.
Yes.
Everybody is now being encouraged. It's not just in Nigeria, worldwide.
Yes.
Worldwide, to engage in some form of farming.
Farming, yes.
Potted, there are crops, plants that you can pot. Some of these little things, you know, yes, lettuce, vegetables, pepper, you can pot them. Engage in it. If you have any small space, don't waste it on gossip, because the governor has given you 3 days. You waste it on gossip or playing
draft.
You see, let's try to reflect on this question. What if the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, had inserted such clause in that inaugural address? We will never
be this angry.
The way they are, yes, the way they are about it. If he had said subsidy had been removed, workers will work for 3 days, and we are adding maybe 20,000 naira to your salaries at the federal level, we will never have taken, we may have taken to down their tools.
All right, wonderful viewers, this is the much we are going to take today, but I just pray that these 40,000 naira, let it not undermine the 200,000.
Let it also be implemented.
Let it also
I'm sure. I'm sure it will be implemented.
Yes. And this is also, it's supposed to be a warning to every other governor, or it's rather a lesson. Every other governor should follow suit, and it is important to know that these are also human beings. Not just being a governor and then you relax while others are dying and suffering. That is too bad. And then we want to thank Obaseki for what he has done. And I pray that other governors will follow suit. Our wonderful viewers, this is the much we are going to take today. From my far left, I had Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi. Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi, thank you for being part of today's program.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, viewers. Goodbye.
And Barrister Chukwuemeka Nwogu, we are very glad having you here today.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and to our viewers. Bye for now.
And this is your anchor man, Chinedum Adiele. Until I come your way again, remember Friday is another wonderful day for issues of the moment. Keep watching other programs of Living Television. Until we come your way again, for me, it's bye for now.